Hi, everyone. How are you today?
Hi,
Great. How are you,
great. How are
Megan?
you?
Good. Thank you so much for speaking with me.
Of
Yeah, thank
course.
you.
Happy to be here.
Well, let's talk the movie. Congratulations. You're all three of you are the newcomers to the band, as they say. So, what was that feeling like for all three of you to go into an already established franchise and make such a big impact on it?
I think we were really nervous at the beginning. A lot of pressure. We don't want to let anybody down, and a tough act to follow. But luckily, we were so welcomed from the beginning, and everyone just made us feel right at home from the beginning. And so we're really lucky for that.
Absolutely.
Was there anything that surprised you guys about your characters that you learned as you made the movie that you weren't expecting?
Well, I think like for all of us, I feel like our characters, maybe not during the movie, but from the time that we booked the role to actually starting in like the filming process, our all three of our characters, I feel like changed a little bit, and we 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 sat down with Paul Hohen, the director, and we kind of took some time to go through the characters and go through the entire script just so that we could really make sure these characters were like really refined and we really polished every aspect of them. And so I think going through that, he probably then went back to the writers with some ideas, and I know after that there were certain aspects of my character personally that had changed. And I think it was after that was when the whole competition thing for Alan came through. At first, there was not even really anything about competition for Alan, and that was such a fun thing to play, and I'm glad they found that.
Was that something that you guys were expecting the changes? Do you think it had something to do with your own characters themselves? Like, or excuse me, yourselves in general, once the writers got to know who you were, that kind of was like, okay, we can play with these guys a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like the characters are either directly like us or have just one like strong trait of ours amplified a little bit, and it's really fun because they're all very distinct. And yeah, I think like the writers and just Paul were kind of what Matt was saying, super like open to just changes, and I think it was like a great collaborative experience, which you don't always get. So I'm super grateful. Yeah.
What would you guys say was the most challenging scene for you to film?
Hmm.
Oh,
I feel like in general it's the scenes, and we had discussed this a lot, but like the scenes before the emotional suppressor got turned off were tricky just because of like how do we play that emotion but not get too excited or whatever, and our emotional suppressors get turned off fairly early. And I think they were strategic about that. But yeah, that was something that I struggled with, and I know that we had tried like talking to Paul about, and yeah, I don't know if you guys have anything to add on.
Yeah, I think it's just it's interesting because we wanted to make sure that there was a drastic difference between emotional suppressors being on and then turning the emotional suppressors off. So there was a sense of having to figure out, okay, what is it like when our emotional suppressors are engaged? And then there's actually a scene in the movie where mid scene we disengage the emotional suppressors. And so in the scene, like we had to have a drastic change in like our immediate being, like because through experiencing emotions, not only emotionally and mentally, you have a change, but it physically changes you too, and it physically like gives you a reaction and a response, and like you start taking all these things in, and that it's just crazy. It was a lot to try and figure out and work on, but it was a fun challenge.
Well, for my final question for you guys today, what are you all hoping that fans get from the movie?
oh, so much. I
Yeah.
feel like everyone's gonna get something different out of it. But what I'm personally most excited about is just for kids to be kids, adults, anyone to be able to see themselves reflected on the screen. I know personally when I was growing up, not all the movies I was watching were so diverse in so many different ways.
Hmm.
There's such a racially diverse cast and some different gender identities and sexual identities, and I'm really excited for people to identify with the people on screen.
Yeah. And just adding on to that, like, I mean, obviously there's the fun stuff, the music and, and like the dance numbers and stuff, that hopefully people will learn. But, just that in general, like not writing people off just because you don't really recognize, like there are so many different paths, right? Of people have different paths, but I think you see that ultimately when you allow yourself to connect with them, then you oftentimes find a new friend or maybe a new love interest or something, you know, and like don't rob yourself or the other person of that opportunity. Yeah.
Agree with both what they said.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for speaking with me today. I'm excited for everyone to see the movie.
Thank you, Megan.
So much.